Hello, we're Lilith and Lara here with Coffee, Cakes, and Castles, where we are covering the 20,000 to 25,000 castles of Germany. We'll be talking about historical facts, myths, legends, and the drama.
And today we're diving into one of the wonders of Munich, Schloss Nymphenburg. Listen along to hear about the 17th century palace, including its wonderful architecture, international influences, the Hall of Beauties, and the origin of Oktoberfest.
Hey, we are Lilith, and I'm American.
And I'm Lara. I'm from Germany.
And we're just two girls who happen to love all things involving coffees, cakes, and castles, especially when you can have coffee and cake inside of a castle. And today we're diving into the drama, the intrigue, and pleasure palaces.
Mhm.
So we will be talking about one of Munich's most well-known landmarks, Schloss Nymphenburg. And
And
pleasure palaces are definitely not what I thought when I first heard the term. And so we'll talk about what they actually are in this episode.
yes, really exciting. I think it was the first one we went to in Munich, right? When we were
Yes,
walking around. Yeah, and we joked around it's gonna be our summer residence.
our summer palace.
Yes. We loved it there. And the park. It was amazing. Just walking through good weather. Was a nice day.
Yes. The park was so pretty. I don't know. I guess I hadn't looked up anything about Schloss Nymphenburg. So when we first walked in to the park, and then it was just so expansive.
Yeah.
Huge, just absolutely huge. And I think when we first walked up, we couldn't even see the palace. Like it was just
It was
kind of a tiny,
tiny.
like in the distance. And then the closer we got to it, the bigger it got.
And then it was huge. Like standing
Yes.
in front of it, we were like, okay.
And we will talk about that. So just kind of the overview. Schloss Nymphenburg is located in western Munich, and it is in the region of Bavaria. It was built in 1664 by Elector Ferdinand Maria to celebrate the birth of his heir Maximilian II Emmanuel, and it was gifted to his wife Henrietta Adelaide of Savoy. And the architectural style is Baroque, and then it was later expanded with Rococo and neoclassical elements.
No
The
worries.
original architect of Schloss Nymphenburg was Agostino Borelli, an Italian architect who began construction in 1664, and he was also known for designing Munich's Theatine Church, which I have not seen. Have you been there?
Yes, I've been
Yes.
there on one of my business trips, and it's really nice as well. Next time you have to go, and we will look at it.
Definitely, yes, because another thing that Germany has a lot of, I found, was churches.
Churches, we do have a lot of churches. Every little tiny town has its own like church and stuff.
And they're all so unique, and they're also very beautiful.
Yeah, they spend lots of money. So, yeah.
Or they should be. Okay, and over time, the palace was expanded and modified by other architects, including Enrico Zuccalli and Giovanni Antonio Viscardi, who added the side pavilions and the connecting gallery starting in 1701. And so those connecting pavilions are kind of what makes it so expansive.
Yeah.
And the name, so Nymphenburg, was given to it by Henrietta Adelaide, and it means Palace of the Nymphs.
Hmm.
And the frontal width is 632 meters, which is wider than the Palace of Versailles.
That
And
is crazy.
and the palace complex is 180 hectares, and that's approximately 444 acres.
Yeah.
Accessibility, so it's easy to reach by public transport or car. Check the website for directions, hours, and ticketing. And we were able to walk in and buy tickets that morning, but we got there right at open, I think. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it was
Yeah,
very early, and we just
early.
spent some time in the park, went to the castle, and then went back to the park, so that was quite good.
Yes. And um You can check the website for the prices, and you can also get combination tickets that include the carriage museum and the park palaces. And if you have time, this is worth it. And I wish that we had time. Um,
Yeah,
because as we were walking around, we were like, "Oh, like, it would have been kinda nice to be able to go into all the other spaces."
there's
But
so much to see. You can
yeah,
spend one day, like the whole day, just visiting all the little palaces in the park and the botanical garden and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and if we weren't, because we were exploring Munich afterwards, and then we had to move on, so we did not have the time, but I would love to go back and see all of the different palaces, and the carriage museum. That looked very cool.
Yes. We have to check out our summer residence.
Yes, and everything that it has to offer.
Yeah.
And the tours, they have, audio guided tours, and you just get, like, the little headphones, um,
I
and
think it was quite good, right? I
I
thought
thought so
like
too.
they had lots of information, not too much. You could follow very easy, and that was quite nice.
Yes, that one I feel was very easy to follow, and it had the little corresponding numbers, as you're going through, and I feel like it explained everything really well.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And moving on to the park, the actual park. So the park is free to walk through, beautifully landscaped, and then I think some of the trails were gravel,
Yeah.
parts of it were nice and shaded, and then it had what looked like canals, and I found out while doing the research that there are actually gondola rides depending on the season.
Wow.
Yes, so if
Yeah,
we go
nice.
back, we
We
can
have
go
to
back when
take
they have,
it.
like, the gondola rides,
Yes.
yes. And I felt it was, like, very picturesque. Again, it's kind of that postcard, like, what you would see in a postcard perfect views of the
Yeah, the
palace.
water features and like all the geese and ducks who were walking around and stuff. That was nice.
Yes, and kind of what we were, talking about, how they had added on the pavilions, to make it just massive, and when we came in, I think we came in from the back, and so all we could
Yeah.
see was, the center of it, and then I don't think we realized how big it was until we walked out the front after the tour and turned around, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, like, this palace goes on forever."
Yes.
Yeah,
And it's
and
so beautiful. Like you can really walk around and the castle is like at the end or the beginning and either side was so nice to see. Like every
yes.
view was really nice.
Yes, and I did like how they, have it to where you're allowed to walk the palace grounds, and through the park and everything like that, and then do the tour of the palace as well. I thought that was a nice setup
Yeah.
that they have, yeah. And there are also botanical gardens that are adjacent to Nymphenburg, and there are greenhouse tours. And so the greenhouses were commissioned by Maximilian the First, and there is an iron house, which was built in 1807 and rebuilt in 1867 with iron and glass. Uh, a geranium house built in 1816 by Friedrich
Hmm.
Ludwig von Schell.
Yes.
And then a palm house or Palmen house built in 1820, which had heated, water systems, that were put in the 1830s, and then the Schwanenhaus
Fahnenhals. Yeah.
Schwanenhaus greenhouse, and this was the oldest, built in 1755, and I thought this was neat. So they grew rare fruits there, like pineapples. Um,
So cool,
yeah,
right? Like
yes.
in those times, yeah.
That was pretty cool. Um, and then we did not go to the restaurants, but there is a Schloss Cafe im Palmenhaus, which is located in the Palm House, and then a Schloss Wirtschaft Schwege,
Hmm?
which is located in the South Wing. And from what I understood from the website, you don't need reservations, if I understood their website correctly, but you can double check on that.
Yeah, and you should definitely check because on some days it be super full from all
Mm,
the tourists going in. And sometimes it must like check first if you need a reservation.
Yes, because another thing that I found while we were in Germany, you now need reservations for most restaurants, especially if it's the weekend, I found
Yes.
out.
Yep.
'Cause I feel like
Very important.
yes, when I was there, the first, 2 times that I had visited, that wasn't really a thing yet, and then this past time, every single restaurant, the first thing they asked was, "Do you have a reservation?" So, if you're traveling to Germany on the weekends, make sure you're making reservations to these places.
Yes, better do that.
Yes. Um and then we'll go into the historical highlights. So, as we said, the initial construction began in 1664 and it was mostly completed by 1679, the original parts of the building. Um, when it was first built, the distance from the city was 2 hours from the Munich city center, and it is now 20 to 30 minutes away.
It's crazy how Munich expanded and how big it got. It's like, and it's they forbid to build Munich higher, so some buildings are allowed to go higher, but most of the buildings do have to stay under the church in Munich, like the height
Okay.
of the church, and that's why Munich had to spread so far and is not building like rising up into like the air. That's why Munich expands and gets so wide. And yeah, that's why the city center or the center is now huge.
That makes sense. So they had to build out instead of up.
Right. Right.
And let's see. So for the expansions, Max Emanuel added the wings and the gardens and pavilions. Um, and then Karl Albrecht, later Emperor Karl, and Maximilian III Joseph expanded the parks and hunting grounds. Um, the original structure of the Great Hall remains unchanged from when they put in the Rococo elements. And that was amazing walking into it.
Yeah.
The Great Hall, it felt
Yeah, it felt
um
like we were walking into a movie, like a
yes,
set from a movie, and we were looking like it was crazy, looking
yes.
around and looking up.
That
Yeah.
is a good explanation for it. It's like you're walking into a movie set because it was just so beautiful and grand, and it had, the murals, and so the huge ceiling painting, the mural depicts the Olympian heaven and symbolizes the duty of the ruler to bring and receive peace, and then on the park side, the nymphs pay homage to the nymph, Flora, who has become a goddess, and it's a reference to the name of the palace. And Flora is the goddess of flowers and spring in Roman mythology.
And that's
And
why
you
it
can
fits perfectly, like
yes,
to the summer residents.
my residence. And the redesign happened in 1755 to 1757 by by Max III Joseph, with Rococo stucco in the Olympian themed ceilings, and the interior design has remained unchanged since then. Um, which that is pretty cool. So you're really
Yeah.
walking into a piece of history there.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
amazing to see all the ceilings and like the stucco.
Mhm.
It's that it remained like that. They do lots of stuff to keep it the way, but it was still very nice to see how they worked in those early ages with the stucco.
Yes, if you are a fan of architecture, feel this one is for you.
Yes, and all this like the windows as well. Like they designed the windows. I was really looking at them and I was like, okay, that is beautiful.
Yes, I had forgotten about that. The huge glass windows when you walk in and it lets all the light.
Yeah, and it made the room so open. Still, like the history is flowing through, but the lights, which were like on the windows and the mirrors, it was amazing.
Yes. And so this room was actually used for dining and family celebrations. And talking about the redesigns, the garden was also redesigned and was shifted from a French to an English style in the 19th century. Okay,
Yeah.
and we will kind of do some of the tour highlights and room influences because they had some very interesting, like the differences between the rooms were really interesting. They
Yeah.
were all kind of unique, like a little bit different, different styles. And so the north antechamber is an example of the French interior design style. There's another antechamber where the ceiling is, there were a lot of antechambers. The ceiling was painted in devotion to Mother Earth. And then on the side walls, they're covered in red damask. And there's two large paintings of the electoral family represented as figures from ancient mythology. Um, and it's of Elector Ferdinand Maria as King, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Endymion,
Yeah,
and
I think that's okay.
and Electress Henrietta Adelaide with the children as the goddess Diana. And then another antechamber, which an antechamber is kind of a transitional space. And so this includes a table from the Medici court workshop in Florence and ceiling artwork by Johann Anton Gome. And then there is a guest bedchamber that was reserved for the higher ranking guests, and it was decorated with seasonal textiles, luxury decor. The North Gallery is a corridor-like space for display, for art displays and indoor promenades. And then one of the imperial bedchambers was an opulent room for emperors and nobility, and so it had gilded furniture and symbolic motifs.
That one
Um,
was crazy, right? It was so
yes,
like when you were looking at it and think about people slept in such a room, it just looks out of a movie and people were really sleeping there.
yes, like these, I mean, the bedchambers were beautiful palace bedchambers. I mean,
We were in a
like
palace, sorry, but
palace.
still,
Yes, like beautiful palace bedchambers. They had like the silks and I mean the even the wallpaper that they used, it was just all I mean we used the word opulent and that's
yeah,
really what it was. It was just really beautiful and I feel like you can kind of imagine these places, but then when you actually step into them and can
it's
see it in
crazy.
person, it's just a whole different experience.
And I think that was one thing which was special. You could even touch some of the like pieces when they had some of the wall paper. They had it on a display and you can touch it and feel it. I think that was quite interesting that you can really see how like the material felt, um, how special it felt.
Yes, because when we're talking about wallpaper,
Yeah.
it's not the wallpaper that we would use in our house. I mean, this
Nope.
was like, I think was it silk, I think?
Some of this was
Yeah.
silk and some of this was like Egyptian paper or something like that, and
Yes.
it was crazy. Like,
Yes. And so we're gonna get into some of the international influences. So there was Italian influences, and that can be seen in the antechamber table from the Medici court workshop. And then Henrietta Adelaide also brought in Italian architectural tastes into the palace. And then Egyptian, which I found interesting while we were doing the tour, was the pharaoh's bust in the queen's study.
mhm.
Um, I wasn't expecting Egypt when I was
Me neither. That was
in this
crazy.
yes, in this German palace, but apparently during that time, Egypt was, quote, unquote, kind of in style, during the Napoleonic era, and so you can see the influence of that. And then there were French influences as well, so exotic woods from Paris in the table in the Queen's study, there were French textiles, um, you saw Asian influences. Again, this one kind of surprised me, um
Yeah.
I was not expecting to see the Asian influences, in this German palace, and I know that people who are probably, historians, things like that, and the movement of the trade during the time, it probably makes sense to them, but I just walking through to me, um, it was really neat to see because I wasn't
Yes.
expecting it. And then So there is a Chinese lacquer cabinet, and then there's Asian and also Middle Eastern influences in the park palaces. And so the Pagodenburg has a Chinese drawing room and then Arab and Indian design elements. The Badenberg has Chinese wallpaper and the elector's apartment, and the greenhouses were cultivating those exotic tropical plants like palms and pineapple. So,
Opulent, like we
oh,
said.
opulent, yes, opulent. And again, it was all of these different cultures kind of coming
Yeah.
together.
And that was so cool to see as like walking through, seeing what they put in a castle in the middle of Munich somewhere.
Yes.
Like that is crazy.
Yes, and, because I think, we saw other castles which we're going to talk about, but the different influences that, Nymphenburg has, I feel were, more so than a lot of the other ones
Yeah. And it combined
that we
so
saw.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, and okay. So we also saw the Beauties of Nymphenburg, and this is a gallery of beauties which was commissioned by Ludwig I in 1827. And there are 37 portraits of women from various social classes. Some of them were Ludwig's lovers, such as Lola Montez.
We heard about her in the first episode. You
Yes,
remember the song text? Yeah.
yes. What Lola wants, Lola gets.
Exactly.
Other women depicted in the Gallery of Beauties were just women he had seen and kind of admired from afar, but all women were compensated for modeling.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I guess so when we did the tour, like we saw the Gallery of Beauties and I did not understand at the time kind of like what it was in reality, which for Ludwig the First, it was kind of an ode to these women. I was just like, "Oh, like, beautiful paintings."
Yeah.
So now we're gonna get into, um, some of the interesting things, regarding the Gallery of Beauties and Ludwig the First and his affairs in politics.
Yeah.
But so, we're gonna talk more about Ludwig the First, and this is kind of why I thought pleasure palaces meant something else. So,
But it's
um
the affairs and the marriage and the
yes,
politics. So
yes, because
let's dive in.
it was mentioned that, affairs took place and there was some friction between some of the kings and their wives. And so when I heard pleasure palaces, I was like, oh, I guess that they like dedicated these palaces to their like mistresses. No, that's not
Yes,
what they were,
no.
but not what it was. But getting back to Ludwig the First and his notable affairs. So we have Lola Montez, an actress and dancer, and he gave her a villa in Munich. And this is while he was married.
Yeah,
Um,
who would say no?
well, he was married. And then Jane Bigby was an English adventuress with multiple marriages. Mariana Florenzi was an Italian marchioness,
Yeah,
um, with whom he exchanged thousands of letters. Caroline von Holstein, a Bavarian noblewoman who's featured in the gallery. Ninette Kaula, a Jewish woman from Munich who's also featured in the gallery. Helene Sadelmeyer,
Sedelmeier, yeah.
a shoemaker's daughter who was admired by Ludwig. Countess Augusta von Thurheim,
Mhm. Thuram,
a
yeah.
confidant who documented Ludwig's romantic tendencies. Um, And again,
Yeah.
while all this was going on, he was married, to Teresa of Saxe I'm gonna let you pronounce her name.
Hildburghausen. Yeah.
And he was married from 1810 to 1854, and
So that's quite long.
yes, the first Oktoberfest actually celebrated their wedding,
I did
and
not know that. That
yes, so
is quite interesting.
that is how Oktoberfest started. It was in
Oh my
celebration of
god.
the wedding, yes. And, um So she tolerated Ludwig the First's affairs, and by all reports, like, the marriage, other than these affairs, there was nothing, like, notable. They got along well, um, and she just tolerated it, and those women, listed are just that's not the entire list.
Nope, the list is a
No.
little longer.
Yes, the list of affairs kind of goes on. Those were just the notable ones. Um, and I guess it was just kind of accepted,
Yeah,
it seems
I
like.
think she didn't really have like a different option at that
Yes.
time.
So, and getting on to his political legacy, he was fascinated by medieval titles: King of Bavaria, Duke of Franconia, Swabia, Count Palatine of the Rhine. Um, and that does sound, in movies when they're kind of like
Yeah.
announcing the king or royalty with all of these names, that is what it reminds me of.
Yes, definitely.
And also noted during his time were the beer riots. And so beer was taxed in the 1840s, leading to unrest. Um, and we had talked about in our first episode that Ludwig the First had to abdicate the throne, and a lot of it had to do with the affairs. Part of it also had to do with the beer riots and people being unhappy. And he just,
About text beer, who would
yes.
not be unhappy about that?
So there was some unrest at the time. And in 1848, he did abdicate the throne during the revolutions in Europe. So there were kind of a few things that contributed to it. And then we will move on. So Ludwig II, just who we went into
Talked about.
great detail in the first episode. Um, but when it comes to Nymphenburg, he disliked it, calling it too political.
Jump
So Ludwig
to the
II's thoughts on Nymphenburg were that it was too political, so he did not spend a lot of time there. Um,
yeah.
and moving on to the park palaces. So here's where we'll finally discuss pleasure palaces, or how do you say that in German?
Lustschlösser? Yeah, it's mostly that.
Um,
Lustschloss.
I feel like it sounds better in German.
Yeah, it does sound better in German, right?
Okay, and so we have Amalienburg, which is a Rococo hunting lodge slash pleasure palace commissioned by Karl Albrecht for Maria Amelia. It is famous for the Hall of Mirrors, and it has a blue cabinet in yellow room and an Indian cabinet in blue room. Um, and so this we could kind of see in the door. And that's the one I was like, "Oh, I wish that we could go in," because you could kinda see the
Yes,
mirrors,
that
and
that looked amazing.
yes, it did look amazing, and I do wish, like, we could have gone inside, because even just, like, from what we could see from outside, it looked amazing.
Yeah,
And so a pleasure palace, what does it actually mean? It's a palace for retreat, like a country house or chateau, so that's all that it is.
that's all what's
That's
in there,
all
yep.
that it is, yes. But you could say, "Oh, I'm going to my pleasure palace,"
Yes.
or
Let's go to my
Mietstraße.
pleasure palace. Yeah.
Oh my
Nice.
goodness. Oh my gosh. Okay. Um, and then there's the Badenberg, which was built in 1718 to 1722, and this has a Roman bath influence, and Chinese wallpaper. And then the Pagodenburg, built in 1716 to 1719. This had Arab, Indian, and Chinese design elements. And then the Magdalenen Klause, built in 1725 to 1728. And this one, when we saw, I had assumed it was just from the looks of it, like either that it was built way before then or that it had kind of fallen into disrepair, but that was actually an intentional look for it. It was conceived as a hermit's retreat. with a grotto of Saint Mary Magdalene, and it has a narwhal tusk crucifix and Byzantine tables. So the outside, the exterior of the Magdalenen Plaza,
Hmm.
it doesn't look kind of like the exterior of the other palaces, um, which again, we'll use the word opulent. Like, um,
Yeah.
it is a completely different look that that one has, and again, that was done intentionally. Um, and so Schloss Nymphenburg in recent years, it is still used to this day by the Vittelbox family. In 2023, there was the wedding of Prince Ludwig of Bavaria, hosted by Franz, Duke of Bavaria, and Franz still resides there because I think when we were kind of doing the tour, we were wondering about that. Like, does somebody still live here? Like, is
Yes.
still used as a residence? And administration and things like that. And it is.
And they do have like events in the ballroom and stuff. That was quite interesting as well.
Yeah.
That you do have concerts and stuff in that room. And we were like, okay, how cool is that? That the
Yes.
castle is being used for stuff like that.
That would be so amazing to attend.
Yes.
Something in the palace, like, that would be really, really cool to do. Um,
Definitely.
Talking about the House Wittelsbach, so they lost their ruling status after Ludwig III was deposed in 1918. Um, and then there is a porcelain manufactory on the palace grounds that still produces porcelain to this day. Um, And I looked it up, and you can buy off of their website. Yes, a lot of it was well out of my price range.
And we saw some of that in the like little shop, right? There was lots of porcelain as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so it does have the Wittelsbach, crest on it, and it was founded in 1747 by Maximilian III Joseph, Elector of Bavaria, and they do things like tableware, vases, figurines, um, and it's marked with their coat of arms since 1755.
Yeah, so cool, right? Such a big
It
piece of
is
history.
very cool, and yes, that they're still producing porcelain, like, to this day. Um, and then does Schloss, Nymphenburg have coffee and cake? So they do in the restaurants, which we did not get to try it ourselves because we went to a cafe in Munich, and do you remember which cafe it was that we went to? Because it
I
was
was
really good.
thinking about it. Yeah, it was really good, but I can't remember the name.
No.
It's so bad, but I will look it up and I'll try to find the name.
Okay, because we had, coffee and pastries, and it was
Yeah.
really good, yes. And we also stopped by Nymphenburg does have a gift shop, and they have a lot of nice gifts, like, relating to Bavaria and Bavarian royalty, and then if you're watching the video, I have this that I got there. Um,
The mug.
but yes. It had a lot of nice things, and if you are buying souvenirs, for other people, I got a couple there because they had a lot of cool stuff.
And it was quite nice with the tables and stuff. It was really neat. So you could walk
Mhm.
through and that was really nice.
Yeah, and it was nice just kind of looking at everything, like, even if you're not buying anything, just to, like, see what they had because,
Yeah.
again, it's all related to Bavaria, and Bavarian royalty, and so we found some really interesting things, walking around the gift shop, yeah.
We really liked Nymphenburg. Nymphenburg was really amazing walking there and enjoying the time. The sun was out. It was a really nice day.
Mhm. Yes,
So
and
definitely go and check it out.
yes, I think that is one that if we had more time that day, we definitely would have spent,
Definitely. We
more
would
time
have walked
walking.
everywhere.
Yeah, because there was so much left to explore, that we didn't get to, but I'm glad that we did get to experience it,
Yes,
in the
it was so
palace and
nice.
do the tour, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for listening, and next week, we are going back um, to Schloss Hohenschwangau to talk about that.
We're really excited.
Yes.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.